Hi there, it's Martin and Nick, and today we're going to go through 110 Parsons Cross Road in Sheffield. It's kind of a curious property. It's quite expensive for what it appears to be. So for me, the question is it worth it? We'll find out, I suppose. And the format, as you may know, is I go through the condition assessment stuff. So we look through the sales particulars, go through the Viewer videos, talk about condition issues and just the characteristics of the property. Then I get into crime on our system. We've got a system for all this. We talk about crime, then we talk about demographics, very important, and capital growth, very, very important. And then from there, we hand it over to Martin, and we talk about location, and then comparables on sales and rent. Then we score everything up, and we then give our final view on the property. So quite a lot to get through. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
The very first thing, I'm going to share the screen, and here we go. Right. Now, very first thing to say is it's sandstone brick building, and from this, it's a solid brick, I suspect. It won't be a cavity wall, and also it's interesting that it's got stone lintels. This has been painted, obviously. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. There is this whole theory about walls, if you paint, especially with porous walls, like we use a porous brick, whether that affects the breathability of the walls or not. But it's sandstone. I don't think it is breathable. I don't think it's an issue. Now,
and it's built before 90s, I guess.
This looks to me like it's 1880s to 1900s, but you'll be able to check on your system, I expect.
No, it doesn't have data, but it has for property nearby, and it said before 90s.
1900s.
90s, yeah.
It's had a new roof. That's a big bonus. You can see this one here has had a new roof and this one hasn't. So that is encouraging. Now, the next thing is, with all of these kind of interiors, what one's looking for is signs of damp. Now, this is a freshly done interior. Martin, when was the property last sold?
Last sold 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the dangers is you have a property where there's been a very recent renovation, but there might be lurking damp issues. And by the time you get over the line, you own the property, it's too late if the damp shows up. So the ideal outcome is that you've got a property which has been decorated not that recently, and therefore if there are any lurking issues with damp, they'll show and you'll see, and then you go from there. And we can see here, is this correct? I can't believe that that's 1,700 square feet.
No, it's not. They said that the property should be around 80.
It's probably half that. They've probably just got their multiples wrong.
Yeah, it's 83.
Yeah, that makes more sense. And just going through it here, that's quite fancy coving. Now, when coving is that fancy, it's usually because it's the original. But I suspect that this property has had a really deep renovation, and I suspect that that is more modern coving. And the other reason I feel that is because if you look at the walls, you don't see any undulations or ripples, even though the light is really close to it. So I think that these are plasterboard walls as opposed to plaster and lath, which is good. Plaster and lath, just to show you very quickly, it's how walls were done in the past, and it was usually strips of wood. Well, it was strips of wood, and then it was all squidged in, plaster squidged in. But the catch was that plaster and lath they usually use the worst wood that was very bendy and twisty, and the plasterer would have to try and smoothen the whole lot out and would always just undulate and really not look good. But I think the whole property has been bought back to brick. And this also validates this. This is a new look, this whole opening up of the back annex, that's a modern thing. This has been nicely done, I would say. Laminate flooring, nicely done. And overall, it looks like it's in very good condition. So far, so good. This is, I mean, this is what it is, but you've got this double fridge. What they should have done was extend the kitchen units out here and somehow incorporated this, but whatever. It's a minor compromise, let's say, for the benefit of getting a tumble dryer in here where the fridge would have lived, and at least you get double height fridge, so that's okay. And we've got a nice backyard. Again, the theme being that somebody spent a lot of money renovating this, and we have good new fencing. I would imagine they would have done the renovation in one hit. And my guess is, when was the property last sold, you said?
2005.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if these renovations are within the last 10 years, something like that. Usually when people buy properties, they do the renovations pretty much thereafter once they own the property, and they tend not to wait for a long time. So I suspect that's that. And then we've got AstroTurf, like artificial grass in the back. Again, everything's looking nice and crisp. Good interior decoration, very modern bathroom suite. To me, this feels like it's 10 years of age or less. And also another point here, we've got a modern boiler, and the reason I know that is because the hot water is coming out of the boiler, not out of the power shower thing.
Yeah, and also in the EPC they don't require that it needs a new boiler, so that means a new one.
And here we have a proper upstairs bedroom, which meets fire regulations, I expect, because it's treated as a third bedroom, and a nicely done loft conversion. And again, that just follows the theme of when the renovation was done, they really just went back to bricks with this. And that's great. It's just a whole lot of pain out of the way. Now, moving on, let's have a look at the Vubra stuff on this. And here we are. So we've got lots of video footage, which is good. I did ask for high resolution, which we've got. Again, lovely, nice new roof. Extra good. And the whole thing would have been built to reasonably good building standards. I'm not in love with the telegraph pole outside the property, but anyway, there it is. That's how it goes sometimes. Altogether, very tidy. And a nice tidy street as well. Just, the nearby, the environs are nice.
Yeah, everything is good. This look like ready to rent property.
Yeah, and just on the look, when you look at it from sales particulars, you just think another nasty little terraced house that's a bit so-so. But actually, this place is shaping up quite well.
Basically, everything what they can be done in EPC they did. They said that it needs floor insulation. And this property to BC must have solar panels.
And what is it now? D, what's the score?
This is E, but E. 54, yes, 54, and to be D, it needs 55, and to make it D, it just needs floor insulation, because it doesn't have. This is an issue.
Yeah, okay, so let's say you can get it over the line, get it to D.
For make it TPC, you will need solar water heating. That's around 5,000 plus 1,000 for floor insulation, and maybe external insulation on the walls. But also you can also add solar solar panels. That's around 4. So this property to reach the C must have around 10K.
Yeah. So we're touching on an important topic, which is EPC legislation for landlords, which I've written about. And if you're interested, message me. I can drop links. And if this goes on to public YouTube, I'll drop links in the description about this. the main point is that it's all very good, this having, nudging towards EPC D. The threat is that they'll go for EPC. The landlords will be obliged to have EPC C before they can rent out. And what I've said is that you do that and you wipe out cheap rentable housing for a huge part of the population. And therefore, I think it's unlikely it'll go to C. It's more likely that it'll be mandated to EPC D. And so the question is, could this creep over to EPC D without too much trouble? If so, then okay. Then I think you're in a decent position risk-wise. But the other part of this is whether the capital growth is there. Because if the capital growth is there, if you've got a nice house in a desirable area, capital growth is good. You take it on, EPC has to be C and you can't get to EPC C, then you sell it. And if you do, you make a nice profit. So the question is, could that happen?
It's really nice area. So,
all right. Overall, this is all looking quite good. And we've got the fuse board, nice. It's possibly, I think it's okay. It might need to be upgraded. Modern ones are more sensitive, so I'm not sure is my answer. So I think I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Joe, the builder. All right, let's move on to the other metrics, which are crime and capital growth and all that lovely stuff. Let's talk about the capital growth firstly. Save that. Reason I want to save it is because I've adjusted the mapping a little bit and I don't want to lose that. And let's go here. All right, we'll start with crime and we'll work our way back. With
the property
crime,
is other side of the street.
Oh, it's one of these ones, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, a reasonably big road, but I don't know what the traffic level's like. I assume they're okay. I think it's fairly quiet. It's a very quiet area.
Yeah, I checked. It doesn't have yellow line in front of the house, so or other side of the house, so everything should be fine.
This is a really quiet area. Now, to give you context, what I did was downloaded 2.5 million records, crime records from the whole of the country, well, certainly England and Wales, and then I used, it was 6 months of data, and I will redo it at some point fairly soon. But the idea is you have a big block of crime data, then you could just see what the characteristics are for crime in the area. We've got 6 months of crime. It's low crime. If there's about a crime a month, it's about average for a built-up area, and this is on the low side, so that's a good start. Now, moving on.
Demographics. Really
good
nice.
Demographics. The only thing about this little patch here is these are the worst houses in a nice area, if that makes sense. So some areas are kind of dominated by a certain type of property. In this case, it's semi-detached houses. And so if you're going to live in a little terraced house in a suburban area, then the terraced house has to be near a very good location for the person renting to compromise and put up with being a little terraced house when they could have a bigger 3-bed semi. And the same principle applies to apartments, that if you live in an apartment, you're generally making a compromise to be in a better location. And we'll get into location shortly. So far, I don't see any obvious signs of awesome location justifying living in a terraced house in an area that's dominated by semis. But anyway, good demographics. Now let's have a look at capital growth. It's a big topic, as ever, but I'll make it as simple as I can. The capital growth is right. So I'll explain the high level and we'll then get into the low level. Capital growth works in cycles and has done so for a very long time. For about 100, well, I've got data, believe it or not, going back 1,000 years, but obviously the further back you go, it's really unreliable. It's from Bank of England, but this it just basic data on house price affordability. But you know, some peasant living in a some peasant, basically 1500s is irrelevant. The industrial age is a good point to start with. 1845 is a very good place to start. We've had 9 distinct property cycles since then, and arguably 10 if you account for the one in the First World War. Little peak there. This shows house prices as a ratio of wages. So 13 times wages equals 1 house cost. And here we can see cycle. Where are we now? Well, this was 2008, beginning of the crash, and we're somewhere around here, I would say. So we're probably 25% in on this current cycle. The trick is to get buying in this zone here. If you leave it too late, that could be a problem because the market crashes and then you're underwater and so on it goes. And the best time to buy is when most people don't want to buy. But the reality is you're in the market now, and now is a good time to get on with it. That's the cycle. And the different areas have different macro and micro cycles as well. So when you factor all that in as a kind of general equation, it takes a while to kind of learn to read it all, but the gist is here, if I zoom out a bit, I'm getting over a cold. Let's just zoom in a little bit. Now, the thing about the capital growth numbers are they correlate with different demographics. For example, here in this area where there's just been 1% capital growth. Why? Because the predominant housing stock is local authority and people don't want to live there in those kind of houses. Or there's not great competition to bid up the price for properties in these kind of areas. Now, what I do is I inflation adjust these numbers. And that means, for example, if in 2008, you bought a house for 100,000 and you sold it for 120,000, in theory, you're up. But in practice, if you factor in inflation, you're actually down 12% in real purchasing power terms. You can buy 12% less stuff with your money than you could in 98. That's the way you adjust for inflation, or the way I interpret this stuff. And therefore, what we're looking for is real gain. And for example, bought into 1990 for 2008 for 90 grand, sell for 124, you're actually up a little bit. Actually, you're not. You're just break even. Sorry. So, with all that in mind, what's going on around here? Well, I would say, sorry, let me just zoom out. I need to get my bearings with this because, and I'm zooming out so that we get a better, more representative idea of what's going on in the market. This is a little enclave of good property in a relatively bad overall area. The overall bad area, capital growth is flat, so that's an avoid. If we look at areas which are good, like this one, capital growth has actually been reasonably strong overall, or break even dash fairly good. So for capital growth here, I would be cautious because this is, as I said, the worst house in the best area. So it may be nicely done house in good condition, but the issue is that it's surrounded by nicer, just fundamentally nicer houses. So for capital growth, I'm not that optimistic. Martin, over to you.
Yeah. I will start with location. So the location is really nice. It's not really far away from city center of Sheffield, but as you can see all over this place to the center, you have a lot of commercial.
So when you say it's really nice though, what about access to shops and that
yeah, that's why you can see here you have like a big market. So basically it's really nice.
Is that a supermarket? That's an out of town shopping center, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it's really close. Also, if you want to go to the center of Sheffield, I will go with direction, and you want to go to Sheffield. If you go by car, it's like 20 minutes. If you go by transport, 30 minutes. So it depends.
Yeah.
So
I'm not feeling it for location on this, I've got to say. I think for what it is, if that was a little terraced house and it was 10 minutes drive from city centre, then I think that would be a compromise worth making, just to say.
but for me, it's good location.
Okay.
Because it have a lot of, you have schools, you have a lot of shops. So basically, you have buses on the main road. You have also on this road. So basically, it's a nice location, but that's my opinion. Because you have everything around what you need. You have a green.
Just to everyone watching, what happens is at the end we do a score, and I give score X, Martin gives score Y. We divide by 2, so that's how we work it out. We kind of average out our scores.
Yeah, it have little extension, as you can see. So yeah, it have a nice backyard. So yeah, it have parking on both sides of the street. It's not the main road, because these both roads, they split the traffic. So it's okay for me. It's totally okay. Yeah, it's close to schools as well. So you have a lot of markets around. So I like it, and you have a lot of green space as well. So not really closer, but you have here, you have there, you have here in the school, you have here a park. So yeah, the location is nice in my point of view. And when you go, I will talk about coal mining. And there is no issues because the property is here, and there is no any coal mining issue in the neighborhood. So this is about that. So about the flood risk, we can, I will back just to open this one. It have surface water, medium risk, and it have river and the sea. It's very low risk. And they said that this because if it was on this road, it will be more considered. But because on this road, I will not worry about it, because you can see maybe when it's have heavy rain, the rain comes over this.
I think it's okay. It's not. Yeah. Is that it on a slope? It is. So it's fine. It's just going to run down the street. And,
yeah. So it's not. Plus it have. So I will not be worried about it. So yeah, and when we go for APC is E, and it's made 2022. This year it made. So basically it's 54, and to be D needs 55. And basically
it's very borderline though, isn't it?
Yeah, and to make it if you want to make it D, I will show what you need to be done. Walls are very poor because the house is really old.
Yeah.
Roof is good.
Just to say about those walls, I don't know if you noticed, but they're really thick walls. They're like double they are thicker than a cavity wall because they're solid sandstone. It's probably like 400 millimeters, something like that, the thickness of the walls.
Yeah, so basically what you need to do, so you need internal extension on the wall to add the insulation. And this is like what is bad with end of terrace house, is just because you need to add extension insulation on this old wall. So that's more cost if it's need to be done, because you basically need to do on 3 sides of the house, and this is the longest and the most expensive. So I think it will cost around 7, 8, maybe 10,000 to add all insulation.
Yeah.
And after you can also make it D, you can just floor insulation, so standard floor. So basically, it's around 1,000.
Yeah, the catch with this is they've already done an incredibly intensive renovation, and they're still they're still outside of EPCD. It's a problem.
So also you have solar water heating, and if you want to. So this is what they suggest, because it have a real potential for. They don't have data for year of build, but I checked the year of build on the next properties around, and it's before 900s. And I will show you now. Yeah, I will show you now. Just a second, sorry about this. And
If you get stuck, it's not a problem because it's not terribly important.
Yeah, okay. This program is to 110, basically 108 or 12. So they don't have this is before 90s, and for this before 90s. So I guess it is before 90s. This is the saddest. I guess it's around 90s, 900s. I don't know exactly, but it should be. This is not really correct data, 100% sure. Correct, but it gives you opinion about. And this is the last sold, 97,000. It's freehold. But I guess when they buy it, it didn't have really. They fully renovated, and I guess they spent like 20, 30K to make it nicer, because everything. My point in the condition, they changed everything. Yeah, on only the roof to change, because this roof is small. But because they add the bedroom, that I think at least it cost them like 15K to make the bedroom upstairs.
Oh yeah, minimum 15,000. Loft extensions are quite expensive. They're quite technical because you've got to stick steel beams in and all sorts of structural stuff.
And I think when the
comparables.
Yeah, I will talk now. Just when they bought it, it was 2 bedrooms. Now it's 3 bedrooms. So
yeah.
So that's also saying about. So the comparables, here it is. We use Rightmove Plus. So here's this property what we have, and this is the property like next doors. And as you can see, they're asking for 140, and you can see that this is the same type of. I will go for the. Here it is. They have the same type of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bedroom on the loft, like attic room. So basically this is the same, but you can see that condition are really poorer than. So I think this
and
was.
What about the sale prices for these properties?
Yeah, I'm checking.
I just think that's ambitious for 140 grand for that.
No, I think this is 150. You can see similar type of house.
Yeah.
They're expensive in this area. Okay. And you can see the floor plan is the same. 150 and this is yeah. And its conditions are similar. Nice. Good people live in this area, so they care about
demographics are good. That's true.
Yeah, 145. So you can see that a lot of property are like around 150.
What's the actual? Have you got any sold transactions from the last year?
I will use our system, and I will just go. Just give me a second, and I will go the prices, and I will go 1 year. Terrace.
I'm curious about terraced and semi-detached, just to see what's on offer. The alternative.
You can see for 150 in August. You can see. This is in August, so compared to now, it should be 160.
Okay.
155 at least. So I think the asking price is correct. Just I'm consider about EPC. 135, but you can see the conditions are bad.
Yeah, I'm just unconvinced about the capital growth prospects for this area. I think they are not that great. Anyway, all right, so what about rentals, so we can get into yield and all of that?
775, sorry.
775. So if we were to just
160
on that.
Up to 160, let's say. If we go up to 160, that's 5.8 yield. And usually in Sheffield, the yield is right now is around 5.5. So this is like not win-win, but it's a good if you go up to 160. And if you take it for 155, 775, 155, that will give you 6% yield. So that's a good one. And basically, it's especially for first purchase, it's a nice start.
And you said, so what's the rent again?
775.
Okay. And And if we were looking at, yeah, interesting. 775. You said 775, yeah?
Yes.
So that would give it a 5.
On 155, it gives you, here is the, for example, property for renting, same type, just not end of terrace house. It have loft room, same 775.
Okay, well,
Yes.
so, all right, should we do the scores on the doors for this?
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. Right, condition, really very good. I would give it a 4.25.
Yeah, the same, just I'm not consider about DPC.
Excellent condition. EPC is a threat, but you know, there's certain location.
For the 25 as well. I
So this
really
is the
like
physical location of the property as opposed to the area that it's in. So just the spot the property's in. I wouldn't give it that because the road is a little bit so-so, but it's a little on the. Would you give it a 4.25?
Yeah. So if you give lower, we can adjust.
I give it a 4. I think it's okay. I think it's
yeah.
Area.
It's really good.
Yeah, the area. It's odd though because it's a little patch of really good demographics. Then you go to the right and you're in not such a good spot. But it is a good little patch. It's. I would give it a 3.75, just because it's not part of a broad area of amazingly good. I'll show you what I mean. If I zoom out here, if you can see all the areas with lower numbers, lower demographics, and you have this little patch where the demographics are really good, but it's kind of surrounded by not so good, as opposed to this area where all the demographics are good, nearly everywhere, except you've got a couple little patches of bad stuff. Does that make sense? So from this point of view, I think the demographics are okay. I'd give it it's in a little island of goodness. So I would go 3.75. Just as the overall quality of the area, what would you say?
I will go more. I will go 4. Because compared to
Sheffield, I know
Sheffield,
you like this one more than me. 4, it's very good on crime. It's very good. Demographics. Sorry, I meant the demographic. Can I give it a 3.75 on demographics? Because it is good, but it's not part of a broad area that is really good, if that makes sense. Okay. It's on the edge of a bad spot.
Okay. Capital growth.
Not really. I'm not loving this.
3.5. In my opinion, it's still okay compared to Sheffield location. This is okay. It's a good location.
It's just to reiterate, with capital growth, it's likely to. It's kind of, to me, it feels like it's kind of a mid runner, and I would say, so based on overall kind of general comparables, S6. It's been good. All right, I'll give it a. It's not a dud. You're right. 3. Did you say 3.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I go with you on that. Sell time, just have faster to sell. It's fine. It'll be kind of 3.5. It's warm, not ridiculously hot.
Price is okay. Nothing. It's not all. But 3.5 as well, because it's not like
time to rent. It'll rent.
Yeah, 4.
Yield
is good for Sheffield. Is good. So yeah, 4.
But I think when you do yield, you have to think about it just generally. And what was it getting on yield? Gross rentable yield?
6 on 155, and asking was 150. Then the yield should be 6 on 155. So
I give it a 3.75. Yeah.
Yeah, 377. It's not for 4. It's not 4-star deal. It's not 3-star deal. So yeah.
It's slightly below average. It's just a touch below average.
Basically. But I think for Sheffield, it's a nice investment.
Okay.
Because it's it's old house, but somebody care of the property and somebody invest to renovate it and renovate it nice. So If doesn't have, after survey report, if doesn't have like damp issues or similar stuffs, then the property will be really. I will give even then a 4, but until then, because it's old, I will not give 4-star.
Yeah,
Because
I think it's a nice property. I'm warming to it somewhat. It's just the trouble is it's in a sea of semi-detached houses, and well, I think it's yeah. They're charming little houses, and the comparables, the evidence you presented from historic sales say that these are desirable properties. So yeah.
Yeah, I like it. That's why I stand to get this property, because
Very good.
yeah, because usually right now in Sheffield the properties have yield around 5.5, and these have 6 dot something in the rentable condition on the asking price. So that's why I think it's a good one. It's old, that's the issue, but it's a good one compared to yield, because in Sheffield usually the yield is not really nice.
Okay, well there you go. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.